from an album titled Dance of the Infidel. That is Michelle Ndegeocello on bass, along with an ensemble that she called the Spirit Music Jamia. And just beautiful, beautiful compositions on this album. And for those people who do not understand that Michelle Ndegeocello embraces all of her musical influences in many beautiful, beautiful ways. And if you look over her catalog of releases, you will get the funk. You will get the go-go influence from our native DC. You will get the folky and the tribute album to Nina Simone. She's given us so many different shades of Black music and culture that it really, really is a beautiful thing to watch unfold. And so that song features vocals from Sabina of the group Brazilian Girls, and it's called Aquarium, and just talks about this kind of futility. Sometimes we think things are pretty and we want to preserve them and have them for ourselves, but what does that mean for the object of that affection being boxed in and held back in many different ways? So it's a sad song, but it's funky. And it's wonderful as we continue our celebration of Jazz Appreciation Month on this final Friday in April. And of course, we are coming at you live from the beautiful environs of Duafe Holistic Hair Care, and it smells so good in here right now. It's hard for me to even concentrate. And the Sable Collective near the corner of 22nd and Allegheny. It is our spring forward membership drive, and so we're inviting you out to, especially if you've never been here, to check out the beauty that exists within the walls of this wonderful, wonderful cultural and entrepreneurial space. And as we continue our conversation on the air today, we are also going to expand our conversation about Black film and television and other cultural concerns. Mike D is in the house for this week's edition of Real Black Radio.
Stephanie, yes, you did not lie. I have not been to Duafe since they made their migration. Always a part of North Philly, but a little further deep in the hood. Actually, right down the street from where I live. So. But the scent, and then the Michelle Ndegeocello. That's
right. We're feeling super black right now.
Candles and frankincense.
Blackety black right now. Yes.
You need to pour a bath. If I had hair, I would definitely line up an appointment. But as always, and actually, it's we're 1 degree of separation away from our next guest.
Yes.
Well, actually, 2 in one way. One, Ava DuVernay has braids. Or dreads, dreads, yes. Excuse me. And when locks, when she comes to Philly, she has had them worked on by the kind of folks here. I know that for a fact. Not her regular person, but when she's in Philly, she comes
to Sarita.
And also Michelle does the soundtrack for Queen Sugar. So
yes, and
with us on the line,
the incidental music, as we say.
With us on the line is C. Fitz, who is the director of the 19th release from Array.
Woohoo!
Jules Catc One. Welcome to Real Black Radio.
Indeed, welcome, C. Fitz.
Fitz.
Okay. To celebrate Jules Catc One.
Yes. Okay. Now we're back in. So welcome. And you prefer Fitz, is what I'm told.
Fitz is great. Perfect. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, Fitz. So the movie it debuts everywhere on Netflix on May 1st.
Woohoo!
But it's on a tour throughout the country. I think it's screening tonight in New York and tomorrow in LA. Do I have that right, or as we speak?
It's in New York.
Gary, Indiana.
Yep. May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, it'll be in Harlem, which will be a fantastic celebration in the Raw space there by Image Nation Cinema.
Yay! I love them.
Yes, and Gary, Indiana tonight, and you have a big LA premiere coming up as well. So we should check the Array Now website for that. But let folks know about this movie, which I happened to see and I loved.
Yes, it took me 8 years to make, but it doesn't compare to 42 years that the documentary covers of this amazing pioneer and activist, Jewel Tice Williams, and all the work that she did. She's a club owner of Catc One for 42 years. And the big difference with Catc One was Jewel allowed the doors open to everybody. And back in the day, it was very hard if you were black, if you were female, to actually get into some of the clubs. even in West Hollywood. But Jewel's Catc One was different. She allowed everybody in without hassle, harassment, and 3 IDs. And it became a huge international mecca over the years.
And yeah, it's incredible. One person, it follows interviews with everybody. Then at the closing, unfortunately, it ended in 2015. But one of the guests said, "This is as close to Studio 54 as I'm going to get." I mean, the LA nightlife scene. Can you speak to that? All the amazing talent that went through on that stage and contributes to the soundtrack of this film.
Yeah, the soundtrack is definitely something I worked really hard at, and it was so important because in the film, there's amazing artists like Evelyn Champagne King, who talks about her song Shame. And as an example, that was really important to the Catch patrons during the 70s, 80s, and 90s, because a lot of them were shamed by their families and friends and co-workers. And Catc One was a place where everyone was welcome. And as far as all the celebrities, boy, the list is long. It went from Sylvester, Thelma Houston's in our film and talks about Don't Leave Me This Way. She has a very unique Catc One story about that, how it was the first time she heard Don't Leave Me This Way, her Grammy Award-winning single at Catc One. And all the way up through Madonna. Madonna came in the late 90s, and she used to dance at Catc One. And she held her music album opening party there. She was a big Catc One fan, not only on the dance floor, but held some parties there too. And there's a whole lot of history that went through there as far as the artists and patrons.
That's a beautiful thing. Well, I got to jump in here because I need you to know that I am one of the people who will go down swinging with the ship when we talk about the power of disco. That I wanted to be Donna Summer when I was little. Not just be like her. I wanted to be Donna Summer. And the idea of not only being able to capture this history, but the blood, sweat, and tears that are involved in being a documentarian. Can you share some of that with our audience? Because, I talk so often with people about what the compulsion is to capture stories in as much real time as you possibly can and to share this with a larger audience. And you've already mentioned it took you 8 years to make this film. So what was the driving force and what kept you going over 8 years to make sure this story was told?
Well, I think once you meet your subject, you fall in love with it as a filmmaker, and it was the first day that I met Jewel. I was doing a 2 to 3 minute piece on her because she was winning an award for a place that I was directing the charity little film. And when I first met her, I was like, wow. I was standing on the property. She was in her clinic, which was right next door to the nightclub that she later made. And I was like, we have to do a documentary on you. There's just so much history. As I call it, it was like an unwritten textbook of Los Angeles, of the communities and of the organizations and the nightclub and all the patrons that went through there. And it needed to be told. And that was from day one. And I guess in my heart, I never thought that I would finish it. There were definitely tough times over the 8 years where you're scraping together funds and also trying to keep the music that should be kept in a film like this that covers 40 years. We had everything from the disco era all the way through Andra Day's Rise Up, which is our hero song at the end. And all of that was really important to me to really shine a light on all of this history that, would have gone untold. And there's thousands of people that know Jewel Tice Williams because she affected thousands of people and she helped change history. But now, because of Array and Ava DuVernay, we get to tell the world about this story, and I think that that's so important. And that was really at the root of my storytelling and why I guess I didn't stop until I finished it. And fortunately, we have that representation through places like Array that really recognize that these stories need to be told.
Yeah, without question. Jules Catc One, owned for 42 years independently by a black woman.
Yeah.
And now the film being distributed by a black-owned film distribution company. So, super exciting. Now, it is Female Filmmaker Friday and it's Freestyle Friday. So you mentioned Sylvester. I got you make me feel mighty real.
Yeah,
I gotta get you.
That's in that movie, Mighty Feel Like That.
I'm telling. Well, no, I got. That's a running gag.
I was gonna say. So you got to understand, Fitz, that we tell Mike all the time that we appreciate everything that he does in the area of filmmaking, but when it comes to song and dance, that he should leave it to other folks.
You're not. I can't. I can enjoy the music. I can enjoy the music in your film. Some of the fashion in this film is outrageous, and some of the people that populate the movie besides Jules. I mean, it's like a homecoming, and I'm sure a lot of people connect with it. When you've taken this movie on the road and it's won lots of awards, what has been the response?
It's been a huge gift. We have been able to screen, fortunately, all the way from Los Angeles, where it's our hometown, and sold out theaters where Jules been there, and we've gotten standing ovations. I mean, what a glorious gift. All the way to London. We got in the BFI Film Festival because of the music and the stories. And again, standing ovation. And I think what's really amazing, the music, the soundtrack is wonderful. It's populated with celebrities that gifted us their specific interviews that relate back to the Catc One. But what's the best gift that I've gotten as a filmmaker is that from all walks of life, at the end of the film, they've watched the history. They've gotten a history lesson that was untold. But by watching Jewel and all her work as an entrepreneur, as a black woman standing up and opening those doors for 42 years, they feel inspired to do something more with their life, to make a little change in their own backyard, to reach out to their neighbor, no matter who they are, by watching the film. And that's been one of the best gifts that I've gotten back by doing the film. And it's been tremendous and amazing. And now with Array and the distribution, I'm just so excited to share it with more people. It's just been wonderful.
Well, I have not yet had the benefit of seeing the film, but everything that you have told us about it today means that I am going to pull up my popcorn and sit down and dance and make a mess in my living room, dancing around. Taking in this wonderful, wonderful history and celebrating the idea of people having safe spaces to be themselves and to just bask in the glory of being in community, because that really is what it's about at the end of the day. Not having to look over your shoulder, feeling like you have found your people, your tribe, and having a place to exercise that for 42 years is an amazing, amazing gift that you've been able to give us in film.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been an honor. She really did create a space and then allowed, because it's such a big space, the building was such a big space, a place to organize for other organizations. And that was so important too. So thank you. It's been an honor to shed some light.
Before I let you go, I am curious. The Catc One has closed 3 years now. And part of it is like she carried that torch for a long time for a great many people, made it a lot easier for the next generation. But in terms of entrepreneurship, what has become of that space and where that neighborhood in general?
That space actually now is a new club, which is nice. In the film, Jewel is really struggling with selling it in 2015. And she feels like it's going to be turned into condos, and she's really having a hard time with letting it go, obviously, after 4 decades. And these new owners came in. It's called Union, and they've made it into a house music type of nightclub. We've actually held a few parties there for the Catc One film, and that's been nice. Jewel's nonprofit health clinic, the Village Health Foundation, was right next door, and she sold all of that property in 2015. But what's been wonderful is Jewel still works to this day as a healer at the Village Health Foundation, which she then rented the next door building. So she's still in that neighborhood, and that's super important to her patients and also to Jewel, because she could really go anywhere. She's an amazing healer, and she could go make more money in maybe a different community, but she's stuck with that community and she's stuck with her patients. True entrepreneur, and that was really important. But we're looking to make it a national landmark, that building on Pico and Norton. And the producers and hopefully this film will help do that.
Love it. So May 1st, it starts on Netflix, and it's traveling around the country. So thank you, Fitz, for taking. I know it's early where you are.
Yeah.
And you have a whole week full of premieres. So please, if
give us a search. Jewel's Catc One on Netflix, May 1st. We're really excited. Thank you, Ray and Eva DuVernay.
Thank you. And if you're in any of the cities where it's actually playing live, please go, because there's parties, things tied into all the screenings. It's really a celebration.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we got to take our first commercial break of today's segment, but we got so much more great conversation and information coming at you on this week's edition of Reelblack Radio. The TGIF edition of The Source is coming at you live, a special live broadcast as a part of Word Radio's Spring Forward membership drive. We're at Duafe Holistic Hair Care and the Sable Collective near the corner of 22nd and Allegheny. Come on out and be a part of the celebration and all of the wonderful Black beauty and self-care and upliftment that is happening. And it smells great. We'll be right back. There are few things, ladies and gentlemen, that I love more than big band music. And it doesn't make a difference who is the conductor, but there are so many young talents in the jazz industry that are now embracing the big band sound and sharing it with a larger audience. That was the Roy Hargrove Big Band from the album Emergence, and the song was titled Mambo for Roy. So that's him wailing on his own trumpet along with his ensemble in that particular composition. It is the final Friday in April, which is National Jazz Appreciation Month. And of course, Philadelphia is one of the seats of jazz music for the world. And so we want to embrace that and encompass that in today's special live broadcast as we celebrate our Spring Forward membership drive with this live broadcast, as we are coming at you from Duafe Holistic Hair Care and the Sable Collective near the corner of 22nd and Allegheny in lovely North Philadelphia. I'm Stephanie Renee, joined by Mike D for this week's edition of Reelblack Radio.
Hey there, and some CB radio guys. What, BJ and the Bears on there too? I hear a little static. Breaker 19. That could be our next guest on the line, which is I'm really excited about our next guest.
Yes.
Eric Jerome Dickey has been writing novels, thrillers, love, celebrating Black love, romance, sex, thrillers for the longest time, and now he's got a new book, and I'm going to hold it up for the people watching. It's called Bad Men and Wicked Women.
Yes, and he joins us now on the line. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are y'all doing?
Breaker.
Very well. And I was telling Mike during the break that one of my best friends has been working and editing with you for a long time, Melody Guy. So it's good to have everything all together. Yeah, she's one of my pen roommates.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. She didn't tell me that. I didn't know that at all. Wow.
Small world. Well, and I guess... Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Eric, go ahead. Well, I mean, it's a small world. I first became acquainted with you when I was out in L.A., one of the first my screening series is based around and influenced in some ways by Doughboy's Dozens, the coffee shop.
Serious?
Yeah, so one of the
gosh, man, yeah.
That's why I saw Cappuccino. We showed Cappuccino. We had Craig Ross Skype in. So we got a lot to talk about.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, you just took me way back, man. And,
let that energy out.
I mean, gosh, back then, you saw him around all the time, and back then I was just Eric Dickey, and nobody knew who I was. And I was a big fan, and as much as I could, because I think I was living out in Phillips Ranch, which at the time, which would have been about a 45-minute hour drive, no traffic. But I was always out. I used to live out in the burbs, and I would come out to L.A. and just stay all day so I could be around blackness. I would get my eats on at Stevie's on the Strip. I would hang out in Leimert Park, which is adjacent to the area that many call the Black Beverly Hills, which I talk about in this book as well. And it's at nighttime, man. Be down Leimert Park, not in the same Doughboy vicinity at Comedy Act Theater, Fifth Street Dicks, Lucy Florence, and Doughboys. Man, it's a huge part of the African American black culture here in L.A. Man.
Pour a little liquor out for Eugene. He passed away, but.
I didn't want to say that part, but yeah, because when I heard about it, it really, I just, it's just.
I don't want to take you there. I'm just saying we have a degree of separation. But if we have time, we talk about Cappuccino, but because that's my first introduction to you. But before we get done, I mean, the job at hand is Black Men, Wicked Women.
Yeah. In
hardcover, Dutton Books. Tell us about it, please.
Oh wow! And the same novel, the majority of it takes place in the areas that we just spoke about. Ken Swift actually lives in Leimert Park. He is what I have called in the novel an enforcer. He's not a hitman, but he's the guy that they send. Somebody owes you some money, a bad guy. This is the guy they send to go have a conversation with him. A lot of times it goes nice, a lot of times it goes sideways. And in this novel, I think when we enter Ken is like 43. He's been in this like 20 years. He goes to have a conversation with a man in Pasadena, and everything goes wrong. I don't want to give stuff away, but that's a huge part of the novel. And it's set in. He has a sidekick, a Ghanaian sidekick, who is just he charms the clothes off women with the wink of an eye. He's that kind of guy, And in his job, he charms this guy's wife right in front of this guy's face, and it's a guy who already don't like black people. Right. So, and he's doing it to mess with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everything. Oh gosh, it's. At times, it's very Tarantino-ish. I mean, it's in the time that we live in now. I deal with pretty much every social issue. I don't deal with it, but it's present in that world. They live in a black community, so as they park their cars, I mean, sisters were handing out pamphlets from the new Black Panther Party. There's stuff up about gentrification. His girlfriend is a singer, and she's got a gig at the Rams game. Everybody wants to know, you going to take a knee? What you going to do? You can't be Switzerland at this. So she's still in that pressure. She just want to sing the song and get exposure. But she's trapped in the middle of the moment, the politics of the moment. If I do this, I lose. If I do that, I'll never get hired again. So it's very timely, but at the same time, it still has that noise feel about it. Again, he's a hitman. Well, he's not a hitman. He's an enforcer. Things are gonna get bad, and at the same time, his estranged daughter shows up at the start. She hadn't seen her dad in 10 years. She knows what he's done, and she brings that to the table to blackmail him for $50,000. So he's dealing with family.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. I mean, it's one of those things. You know how people see you drive a particular car, you dress a particular way, and they think, okay, he must got money. He ain't one of those guys. He's living job to job, but his daughter doesn't know him. She comes to blackmail. You must be rich.
Right. Well, this also brings us to the discipline of what it takes to be a novelist in the way that you have been successfully for years, and talk a little bit about that process for you, because I don't think, in the same way that we have to teach our young people who see their favorite musical artist as a celebrity and how, they think that it's instant fame and instant money, the discipline of writing books and how you get paid to write books and make them successful is something that a lot of people are not necessarily prepared to do.
But Well, no, I think people see the end result. I get people who come to events and they say they want to, be a writer, but what they really want, they want the book signing. They want the picture in a newspaper. They want to do this interview that I'm doing now. But they don't see that, you worked 10, 15 years before anybody took notice. But the thing about it, you're in something. I was writing, taking classes at UCLA, post my engineer. I worked in software development. I worked aerospace for almost 10 years before I made this career transition. And then when I came into this, it was something that interested me, something that I wanted to do. I took it to ground zero. I went to UCLA. I took writing classes, the intro to everything. Intro to short stories, intro to writing mystery, intro to this. So I spent I spent time and money because you can't expect people to invest more in you than you're willing to invest in yourself, be it time or money. And I did it all silently. I didn't talk about it. I was about it. I mean, it was what I did. And years of that, getting through the program at UCLA, the extension program for creative writing, which was fantastic. I mean, it was for me. It was just fantastic being in that environment around writers who didn't necessarily write the same type of stuff I was writing. I could be in a room with 12 people, and you got 12 different types of stories. You got 12 individuals, but I learned a lot from reading stuff that I wouldn't ordinarily read. Staying with the process. The big part of, even with the education, is putting your butt in the chair and trying to be creative with the rules that they gave you. You learn the rules so you can break the rules. That's always been my thing about it, because once you know how to break the rules, now I know how to tell a story the way I want to tell a story, and it can still make sense. Because writing, you're still in communication. To me, this is a form of communication. I mean, because as people read your story, it has to have a logical progression. It has to make sense. It has to come together in the end, and in some way, people have to be left in a suspenseful way, in a good way, or you've concluded a story in a way that the majority of the readers are going to be satisfied. That's why this is all the stuff that you practice at, work at, fail at, get better at, that folks don't see. They get the end product. They get the book that I did, or any writer's done. I mean, and you think that, you must have did this last week, because it takes them 2 days to read it. They don't realize it took you a year to write it.
Yeah.
And that's the part that a lot of people who want to write don't want to go through. They don't want to sit with something. I had in Atlanta come to me with that. It's like, so if I start on this journey and I start to do this, will I be guaranteed? And I was like, no, there's no guarantee. I couldn't have predicted this. I didn't know this was going to happen. You put a book out, you don't know if people are going to buy it or not. You can advertise, put billboards up, put it on the truck, tweet. It doesn't mean people are going to buy it, because then all of a sudden something catches fire that nobody's heard of by someone we've never heard of. Because
Eric, hold it right there. We're up against a break, but I would love for you to, if you could come back, because I'm interested about the business of selling Black books in 2018, and also this is Infinity Wars comes out today. You're involved with Marvel in a very interesting way. I would love people to know about that. Can you hang on?
I'll be here.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent. All right, we're going to take our final commercial break of today's segment and come back and continue our conversation with Eric Jerome Dickey on this week's edition of Reelblack Radio. Hang tight, folks. I have to sigh, because as much as I love Chris and all of his music, that voice that you hear in this song is of the late, great Vesta. But for those of you who need to beef up your Philadelphia music repertoire or your jazz and funk as it relates to all of the music that's being shared, that is Philadelphia's own Christian McBride from the album A Family Affair, with a tune titled Or So You Thought, featuring the voice of the late, great Vesta.
Beautiful, beautiful. I don't know why I'm thinking of Christian, something, he was just awarded something, but it made me also think
he wins all kinds of everything.
Yeah, I don't
Grammys and Lifetime Achievement Awards here in the city of Philadelphia. He's fabulous. And if you get a chance to see him live, you owe it to yourself to make that happen.
I'm late on it, but it reminds me we'll have to talk about the list of the Grammy, like the Library of Congress recordings that were admitted. Harry Belafonte got admitted, and there's some new rap records and things too.
Indeed, but we want to make sure that we get back to our guest who is holding on the line, Eric Jerome Dickey, and he is the author of a brand new book that we are sharing about today, Bad Men and Wicked Women. And Mike, you had some questions before we went into that last break.
Well, Eric, it's great to have you. I mean, again, I've followed your career path forever. But one thing again in terms of modeling, when I came back to Philly, film was starting to grow in a very interesting way, where there's a lot of independent black filmmakers, and at the same time here in Philadelphia, we had places like Crimson Moon, a very Afrocentric community, and I remember a lot of black authors, a lot of Philly black authors, especially. They sort of, there was also an independent network of black booksellers that seemed to help catapult your names into the world, the people's consciousness. I mean, can you? And I remember, like, even like Terry McMillan, they said like that networking of just having a book tour, a place, black-owned book tour, you could talk to one another about what the contract rates were and different things like that. I mean, can you speak about that part of the come up?
Well, it was. I said that was a huge part of it, because I think if we go back, I'll go back to say Terry McMillan, because you had a lot of black booksellers who were hand selling her books. Bibi Moore Campbell, Tim McElroy Ansa, myself, Lolita Files, Kimberly Lawson Roby, and that made a huge difference in all of our careers. I mean, back then, we could do a book tour from coast to coast for 3 weeks and only hit independent black bookstores. And every store you walked into, it was like walking into the home of extended family, in the sense of they knew who you were, they knew your book, they were happy to see you, and it was like just going from family reunion to family reunion across the state. That increased numbers, that increased sales, and what happened was a lot of our products sold not that first week, that second week, but over the course of the year, we were always selling. And when there's money to be made, other folks want to put their hands in the pot. So then you start getting requests from a lot of the mainstream stores, and it's kind of funny. You'll be 3 years into your career going like, well, they've never wanted me there before. Why they want me there now? And you know what I mean?
But also in terms of like, Elin Harris is another name, and here in Philly. He started out selling books out of the trunk of his car. He sold books out of the trunk of his car, and he had a degree. He was degreed, worked at IBM, wanted to do a career change, and self-published, sold books out of the trunk of his car to beauty shops, to anybody who would buy one. Yeah, and I'm blanking out. My guy from Philly, he went to Central. Lure of Young Women was one of his. Omar Tyree, another one. But I mean, one of the things I remember talking to the writers were about was when the big mainstream book publishers did come after you've been selling out of your trunk. Everybody knew what everybody else was getting because everybody had the same network.
Well, not you mean so far as money wise?
What we know the prices kind of thing. Like we know what the offers look like.
Well, we know. Well, I've never known what everybody else's offers look like. I never. Okay. It never. No, I never have.
Okay.
I knew what some other people. Some people would go out and announce what they were getting. But I wasn't necessarily in that group of people who. I was always with the people. Whenever we sat down, we talked about the art, how to make what we have better, because through that, we felt that that's how you increase sales. That's how we didn't want to sound like rappers out there. You know what I mean? And there were some people out there who sounded like rappers. I mean, there were some writers out there. They thought the thing was to get on the mic and talk about they got a beef with another rapper, like it was Langston Hughes and Baldwin back in the '60s, and it just never really attracted me or made sense to me. You know what I mean? So those weren't necessarily the people Say it again.
Makes perfect sense. Now I got to do my Wakanda Forever sign because I know you're also tied in. Over 10 years ago, you were involved with the Black Panther and a great graphic novel.
Let me say this real quick. And people, when you're doing the Wakanda Forever salute, it's right hand over left. Right hand over left.
Okay.
All right, okay. I'm watching people do it. I go, that's not it. That's not it. Over right. That's faking it. It's right hand over left. Okay, go ahead.
Gotcha.
So, I mean,
we're not doing it for the camera.
You had an opportunity to reimagine what a relationship between Storm and T'Challa was.
No, that was nice, man. At the time, Marvel contacted my agent, and my agent contacted me, and you get this phone call, and they say, Eric, Marvel just called, want to know if you're interested in doing a comic. And, I'm like 13 books in, and I'm like, are you serious? I grew up on comics, man. It's like one of the first things I wrote when I was 12, 13. Me and 3 other guys created a comic book when we were in middle school. We only did one copy, one issue, but, hey, it was just, so it took me back to that. And they offered me Captain America and Spider-Man at first to do something evergreen. And then about a week later, they called back with this concept of, because Storm and T'Challa were about to get married in the Marvel Universe. They wanted this big event, and they asked me to do this backstory. So I did my research, looked at what Chris Claremont had done and what a couple of other people had done. And sort of, they just let me go to do my own thing, So I reimagined this section of Storm's life when T'Challa shows up where she is. Because Storm was a street urchin. She was homeless. Her parents had been killed, had died. And I wanted to write her about her. This is before her powers come in. Well, they're coming in, but she doesn't understand what's going on. I wanted to write about it from a particular perspective that I hadn't seen other writers write about it from. Because her powers are all external, the weather, the this, the that, and it's triggered by mood. So for me, my perspective was, so you probably think this is God talking to you. You don't realize that this power is coming from within you. So that was my take on it. And brought in an antagonist that Chris Claremont had created some ancillary antagonists to go along with them. And for me, it was like a dream come true just to be able to do that. I would have loved to have done more after that, but I just got back to the book world.
Amazing.
Indeed. Well, this is a wonderful time for us to appreciate all that you have contributed to Black literature and really celebrate the fact that you've got a new book. So people need to understand. Well, one of the things that irritates me is always when people have favorite authors or favorite musical artists and they go, why haven't I heard from X, Y, and Z? It's because they haven't done the work. So we're happy to have been able to bring your voice to them and let them know if they have some books they need to catch up on, then they can start with the newest one and work their way backwards. But they need to know that you've been here and you have been writing, and they need to continue to support.
And please, they can pop out to www.ericjeromedickey.com to see the entire backlist, everything I've done, what's coming out next, anything that I've maybe a link to a short film that I did out there pretty soon. I stay busy. I mean, I enjoy what I do. I love what I do. And it's not often that you stumble into something or start something that you really feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. It's my calling. It's I haven't felt like I've had a job since 1996. But I work harder than I did when I ever worked for anyone else because I'm working myself.
Well, we wish you much continued success, and we really thank you for getting up early and joining us on the air today.
Thanks for having me on the air. Thank you, and I'm loving the jazz.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no.
I was going to say, and we only have a few minutes left, Mike, but just wanted to thank you again for great guests.
Yeah, absolutely, and we both had a chance to see the Avengers movie. Any quick thoughts?
I've told people.
Oh, no. Oh, I was going to say, Eric's still online. We're not spoiling it, but we just go see it.
I was going to say, I can't. there's nothing. There's nothing I can say about the film that will not spoil it for other people who are going to go see it. So I just recommend, ladies and gentlemen, if you are not going to see it this weekend, opening weekend,
Twitter's
put filters on all of your social media, because otherwise people are going to.
This is impossible.
Avoid it.
There's a lot of
if you're not going to see it.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree on that. And then also, Chris Rock has a new movie with Adam Sandler on Netflix, and hopefully Cappuccino. We need to bring that back out on Blu-ray, Eric. That's one of my favorite movies.
I will message Craig on that. Definitely.
Yeah, we discussed it when he had a screening. And you need to sell a few of your books to movies as well, because we need more romances and love stories.
Yeah, well, I'm working on it as well. We're working on that as well, starting with the novel One Night, and then I'm gonna try to. I've got interest in The Other Woman, and I may look at Friends and Lovers after that. So.
Beautiful.
Excellent. Well, we're out of time, ladies and gentlemen. We want to thank each of you who have come out and who have tweeted and texted everything that you have done in support of our Forward Spring membership drive. We are packing up our broadcast table here at Duafe and the Sable Collective, but that doesn't mean you can't come out and still take advantage of all the wonderful products that they are selling. Support this Black business in our community, and you can still put down The Source on Friday, and Stephanie Renee is your favorite host, and continue to begin or renew your Forward membership throughout the day online, calling our business line at 215-425-7875, and being a part of this initiative going through Monday, the end of the month. We want you to support Black businesses in all of their forms. Reelblack?
Yeah, you got to renew your membership for Word. Our memberships won't start until September. But if you're into Avengers, there's two events. One tonight at Amalgam, and then also on Sunday at the African American Museum, I think 4 p.m. I think it's $5 to get into that one. And then also the film festival is in town. So Blind Spotting tonight, and you also have a documentary about Andre Leon Talley. Yes. So check that out on filmadelphia.org. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, plenty going on. Make sure you are out. Brother Shamari is coming up next. Be a part of all of the wonderful programming that exists on Word Radio. Thank you to our team here for a successful live broadcast. We're sending you back to the studio for the Brother Shamari Show. And until next time, peace.